Hello everybody, my name is Rainer. Welcome to my channel that is called Rainierbooks. Today is time for another review, the fourth review in my segment I've Read Something, and we are talking about Angie Cruz's novel Dominicana. But first let me say shortly that I fully support the cause of Black Lives Matter, that I fully support the demonstrators in the United States of America, in London, in Sydney, in Berlin, Germany, in Malmö, Sweden, in Stockholm, Sweden, and all around the world. I fully support their cause. And I also think that we all should try to read diverse, that we should read authors from different cultural backgrounds, from different ethnicities, to learn, to educate ourselves about the lives of other people. That being said, I want to turn to the novel that I want to talk about today, and this is a novel by Angie Cruz, and it's called Dominicana. Angie Cruz was born in 1972. She was conceived in the Dominican Republic, and she was born in Washington Heights, New York. And interestingly, all her three novels yet deal with the relationships, with that relationship between the Dominican Republic and the small area of Washington Heights in Manhattan and the Bronx in New York. I believe Washington Heights is a part of Manhattan. The first novel was Soledad in 2003. The second novel was called Let It Rain Coffee in 2006. And now it took Angie 13 years to publish a third novel, Dominicana. And this is the story, I read this very much as a memoir. You know, if you saw my last review, which was published last Sunday, it was about Tash Ah's novel We the Survivors, which I saw as a memoir of this Malaysian character of Chinese background, Ahok. And even the novel Dominicana, and it wasn't done on purpose, it just happened by chance, even Dominicana reads much as a memoir. We have a very, very young girl. It's actually a hilarious story because there's a guy in the Dominican Republic in the 1960s, in the beginning of the 1960s, there's a man by the name of Juan Ruiz. And Juan, he is like 28 years old. And he says to the family of a girl called Anna, I'm going to marry your daughter. But at the time, he says that Anna is only 11 years old and she's well known for her green eyes. And everybody thinks that she's such a beautiful child with green eyes. And this pretty much pedophile sounding guy named Juan Ruiz, because who wants to marry an 11-year-old girl, is saying that he wants to marry Anna, and he marries her. A couple of years later, when she's 15 and he is 32, she's married to him. And the reason why the poor parents of Anna, marry the daughter away to Juan is because the Ruiz brothers, they make a lot of business between the United States and the Dominican Republic. In the 1960s, they trade a lot of stuff, import, export, and they live partly in New York. And Juan is Anna says that he's going to take Anna with him to New York, and the mother of Anna sees that as a good chance for the whole family, for Anna to live a great life, to be able to study, to live in the United States, to get presents from her husband. She tells the daughter, you have to get presents from your husband, you have to get clothes from your husband, you have to get makeup from your husband, and don't forget to send money back to the Dominican Republic. So the mother happily gives away Anna to Juan Ruiz, and they move to New York, to a very small apartment in Washington Heights. And Anna's life over there is not so very much happy. She has a false passport. She's supposed to be, according to the passport, she's 19 years old, not 15. She doesn't have a legal status in the United States. She's illegal there with a tourist visa that expires after 3 months. And her husband, there's a sex scene in the beginning of the novel when they have sex for the first time. It's almost like, I would call it rape. You know, Anna gets raped by Juan, and she gets pregnant. And she has to stay in that apartment all the time while Juan is working outside. And Juan is not very nice, and she doesn't actually like Juan. She likes it more when he's away. So she sits in that apartment. She wants to study English. She wants to work. She wants to send money back home to the family, but it's not possible for her to do that because Juan doesn't allow anything. But then things happen in the Dominican Republic after a while, and the unhappy life of Ana changes because in the Dominican Republic, a civil war breaks out between two fractions, and even the United States are invading the Dominican Republic to support the one side of the conflict. And Juan goes back to the Dominican Republic to protect the interests of the family of the Ruiz brothers in the Dominican Republic, and he starts fighting in that civil war. And Ana is trusted to the younger brother of Juan, Cesar, and Cesar is a lot younger than Juan, and he's a totally different guy. He is respecting Ana. He sends Ana to that church where she's taking her first lessons in English. She is being able to cook food because Cesar is working illegally at a factory somewhere in New York, and she ends up cooking so-called pastelitos, which is apparently a very typical Dominican Republic specialty, and she takes those pastelitos to the factory where where Cesar is working, where many other people work from the Dominican Republic, and she sells the pastries, And then the story takes on because Juan is back in Dominican Republic, and Cesar and Ana get closer, and I'm not going to say how close or if they get really close, but they get closer with each other. They start respecting and liking each other very much, and the story develops. And Angie Cruz has said, and this is I have to say, this is a super absorbing novel. Many people have written in their reviews that this is absorbing, and I borrow the expression because this is really an absorbing book. I started reading Dominicana on a Monday, and I was finished on a Thursday, and I have a lot of other things to do in my line of work. So this was really a novel that got me reading, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to see how the story goes for 15-year-old Ana in New York. It's a coming-of-age story as well. It's a coming-of-age story, it's a memoir, and it's a story of emigration, of course, the immigration from the Dominican Republic or from any other Spanish-speaking country to the United States of America in the 1960s, when the times were different from what they are now. So this book is very beautifully written, very passionately written, and I wasn't surprised, I have to say, in the acknowledgements, when I read the acknowledgements of Dominicana, that Angie Cruz actually says that she wrote the story thinking of her own mother, who came to the United States and how she came to the United States. Cruz was born in 1972. The daughter of Ana is born in 1965, and I think she chose 1965 to be able to include the Civil War as some sort of background to the novel. So this is Dominicana, a 300 plus pages novel, 320 pages. It's really very, very beautifully readable. It gives you a lot of insight about this sort of time and about the situation of how women ended up in the United States and how they were given away, promised to someone because it seemed like a good affair, how these women came to the United States very, very young, how they struggled to learn the language, how they struggled to get through as illegal persons in the States, how they kept their vigor and their strength, and how they sort of did the job of the first generation, which was probably not a very happy life for those women, at least not in their young years. So they sort of gave away a lot to be able to give a bigger opportunity to the second generation. This is very much the story of America as we learned it when we were growing up, that America was a land of opportunity, that it was tough, but if you would go there, you would have a chance, and you would have to endure something. And this is a story about the American dream, but this American dream that Ana Canciones is living in America is, of course, a very, very tough and sometimes sweet, but mostly bitter and sad story that she survived. But it's a story written with a lot of love by Angie Cruz, and that makes this novel very readable. And I think it deserves to be nominated for the shortlist of the Women's Literature Prize. The prize is being given away in September this year. And I read another novel that is on the short list, and that's Bernardine Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other. And I will also read a third novel. I will, until September is no problem to read for me, to read Jenny Offel's Weather, which will be the third novel I'm going to read from this shortlist of the Women's Prize. So Angie Cruz's Dominicana is definitely a thumbs up. It's a beautiful novel. Read it and get it. And that was everything for today. My reading actually right now is I'm reading Ocean Vuong's novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I've started the novel. I've also started reading Catherine Belton's nonfiction book called Putin's People. And I'm still listening to Lawrence Wright's at the end of October about a pandemic that is threatening the earth. So subscribe to my channel, please, if you like the content. If you come back again, if you come back to I've Read Something number 5, which will be about either Ocean Vuong or about Putin's People or about the end of October. And we will have another book haul, and we will have another video on Thursday next week, which will be June the 11th, if I'm right. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great evening. Stay safe wherever you are. There's still a virus out there which is very, very dangerous, and we will have to live with the virus for a long time. Love and peace. Goodbye.